Thank you for staying for so long. It's definitely worth of it because Pepa Cacek's topic is very new. It's actually a project or product actually that is still not available in a commercial product. But Pepa will surely tell us more.
Yeah, thanks for introduction. So welcome to your last presentation today. It's cool to have some audience at such a late hour. The presentation will be about new security subsystem in WildFly or for WildFly, because the new and hot and awesome WildFly 10, which was released 1 week before, doesn't contain Elytron. Nevertheless, it only means that you still have a time to prepare for this revolution. I always loved the second slide on presentations of Oracle employees, and I wanted to put disclaimer to my presentation, so now is the time and you can enjoy it. So information in this presentation are without any warranty. So if you break something, I'm not responsible for it, and not my employer. What is the program of this presentation? I will start with conclusion because I have to catch a classical music concert at 7:30, and I don't know how the demo will go. Then some social stuff, because I've read somewhere that some icebreakers should be in every good presentation, and I want this presentation to be good. And then we will talk about why we are changing security subsystem in Elytron, and what features are already implemented, and what we can expect in the future. Shortly we will look into compatibility issues which we can expect, and then if time allows and God allows, we will try demo. So the conclusion. Elytron is a set of APIs and SPIs which cover whole security of the application server. It unifies security configuration, which is now in WildFly fragmented to several places. For example, SSL configuration, I can count at least 3 places: securities, domain security realms, and Undertow, for instance, where you can configure. And there is also a need for strong mechanisms, not only JAWS-based authentication, and for this purpose the Elytron was introduced. When the Elytron was announced on WildFly dev mailing list about 1.5 years ago, David Lloyd wrote that it will completely replace Picket Box and JAWS as WildFly security solution. We will see. So it was something, the message, and now the social part. I will talk about me, and I will ask something about you. So I work in Red Hat, and my focus is on security, and in last months also containers and clouds. The other roles which I play in my life more or less successfully is happy father, experienced hobby runner, and organ player. And what about you? Are you Java EE friends? Raise your hands, please. Yeah, nice. Nearly everybody. And have you ever tried to play with security configuration in WildFly? Yeah? Security domains, realms, SSL configuration. Not so much, but... And do you run? Yeah. Share your enthusiasm. Nice. So the social part is successfully completed, and now let's continue with more serious business. A social part. Why we are replacing the current security solution, which is working somehow. Let's dive into the history of JAS. JAS is actually client side API, which predated J2EE specification, and originally J2EE didn't came with some security solution and left the decisions about security on the vendors, for example, JBoss. And at the times, mainly simple security solutions were in demand, and it means validating username, passwords, and as a result, the JAS seemed as a good solution to solve this problem, this area. So the vendors implemented it, but not in standard way. With JBoss AS7, preference was to switch to more strong authentication mechanisms, which means SSL mechanisms, and this wasn't compatible with JAS. As a result, new solution was introduced. The JAS was covered by security domains, and now we have also security realms, which covers this SSL. And as a result, we have two solutions which solve the same problem, but from different perspective. And it's confusing for users, for administrators. And this is the main purpose which led to initiation of Elytron project. What is already implemented in Elytron? It's mainly the set of APIs and SPIs. One of them is server password factory, which provides implementation of several types of passwords and password mechanisms and representations as hashed passwords, salted passwords, and it provides also API to some level of transformation from one representation of passwords. For example, from plain, I want to convert to some other representation. And when it is supported, we have API for it. The other area are security realms, which we can compare somehow to login modules in security domains, legacy security domains. And the security realms represent integration point with user store. So where your user population lives, for example, you have users in LDAP or in database. So through security realms, you can access and sometimes manage the users. It contains, as I said, it contains also modifiable API. So it's different to login modules. You can directly change through the API the user population and, for example, attributes of users. Security domains are the points against which the authentication starts. So if you have web application, it can say, or administrator can say, yeah, this application will be protected by this security domain. And security domain references security realms, which provides users, for example, for authentication. SSL mechanisms are based on existing JBoss SSL solution, and the completely new is HTTP authentication framework, which introduces something like SSL into HTTP. And everything is packaged as new Java JCA security provider, which is registered by Elytron extension. We will see it later. And also there is ongoing work on integration to other subsystems like web server and EJBs, also remoting and the other subsystem which needs to handle with security. Under the umbrella of Elytron, we can also count the new WildFly Security Manager, which is already in WildFly versions, which we have now. You can try it when you start the WildFly with -sec mgr argument. If you make simple comparison of the subsystems as we have it now in the integration branch, the old security subsystem has XML schema file with 400 lines, and the Elytron subsystem, which is not completed. Yeah? For example, the SSL configuration is missing there, and it already have 2,500 lines. So yeah, it will be huge thing. And if we look into the configuration, how it looks like, usually in legacy security subsystem, you have security domain, which contains references to login modules with some configuration of authentication. The Elytron subsystem has something similar. It has security realms with the user population, security domain, which references the security realm, and then, for example, HTTP authentication, which references security domain, or SSL authentication, which references security domain. And what we can expect in the next days and weeks. Peter is working on credential store API SPI, which will replace security vaults, which are currently used to store sensitive information. So if you don't want to store, for example, database password in your application server configuration, you will put it, or currently you put it into the vault, and in the future you will use credential API SPI to store it somewhere out of the server configuration, and the server configuration will hold only the reference to the credential store. The other part which is expected is the single configuration of SSL context, which is, as I said, currently configured, for example, in security domain, security realms, or under TAU. And there will be a need for integration in other subsystems as remoting or JMS, but thanks to new feature in WildFly 10, which is called capabilities and requirements, this is not so big deal and the subsystem don't need to have a dependency on Elytron project. They just will need to say, yeah, I want to new SSL context, for example, with this name, and they don't need to know that behind is Elytron or other provider. And backward compatibility. Once the Elytron is merged in WildFly, I think user will start to ask, how will I transfer my configuration from legacy subsystem into Elytron? How will I move from vault to credential stores, and so on? And this is only guesses how it will continue. I've talked with Petr, and the plan was to have the old system and Elytron sometime in parallel, and then cut most of the JAS security and only keep login modules which are used, for example, as third-party modules. Customers have their own implementation, so only this part will survive. And also some migration tool for the vaults should be introduced. Yeah, and now the demo time. I want to show you how to simply secure web application in WildFly, and at first I will show you how to do it in the legacy subsystem, and then how to do it with new Elytron. For legacy subsystem, I will use users and roles stored in property files, and in Elytron I will store them in file system realm. And yeah, let's try it. So this is my window, and yeah, we will replace the WildFly with clean installation of the version where is Elytron integrated, and hopefully we will start it. And how the test application looks like, it's single JSP file application, and it also includes two deployment descriptors. One is vendor-specific, our JBoss Web XML, which is used to reference security domain, and the second is the standard deployment descriptor from servlet specification Web XML. And if we look into them, this is the JBoss Web XML. Here we just reference web tests as name of security domain. The standard deployment descriptor says that all application will be protected and only users with role admin will have access, and the application will be protected with basic authentication, and realm name presented to user will be secured kingdom. And the third file is the JSP, which only prints the name of authenticated user, so principal name. The next step, before we deploy this application, we will set up the legacy security domain because we reference the security domain name from the application, so we want to have it prepared before deployment. So I've prepared 2 property files which contains users and roles. If we look into users file, it's only mapping username, password, and property file and roles file is mapping from username to list of roles. And how to configure the legacy security domain. Usually, you don't need, for example, security realm to configure. But because I don't have the property files on class path, I use the way through security realm. So the authentication comes from security realm, and security domain is only used to reference security realm through realm direct login module. So this is the management operations which we will need to do. So let's run it. And let's deploy the application. We can check it. It's deployed. And we can test it. I will use the command line based HTTP client curl, and it will be in verbose mode, so we will see the HTTP headers. And yeah, I didn't provide any authentication information, and the server responses with 401 unauthorized, so we are not authenticated. If we provide authentication information, so username, admin, and his password, the response from server is with status OK, and we see that we are authenticated into the JSP with username admin. So this is authentication in legacy subsystem, security subsystem. Now, in the Elytron, we will need to do some more steps. These are management operations which we'll need to do to complete the configuration. So first, register Elytron subsystem in WildFly configuration, then configure file system realm, which will be stored somewhere under the server configuration. And as you can see, we will use directly management operations to add users, set their password, and also set their attributes. I use setting attributes to configure roles. Once we have security realm, we can use it in new security domain, which name test domain, and then we will configure HTTP server authentication, which will reference the new security domain. And final step is to say to Untitled subsystem that if the application requires authentication to web tests domain, we will map it to the HTTP server authentication, which we configured in the previous step. So it will be authenticated through Elytron. Let's run the script and check the server log file if it contains, it should contain some message from Elytron that it is ready. And now we can again check the authentication. So first without username password. Yeah, and again we are not authorized. But now the realm name in authenticate header from server, it's not the name we used in deployment descriptor, but it's the name we configured in Elytron, so secured by Elytron. If we provide username password, yeah, we have unauthorized because for Elytron we have a little bit different password, so I will provide E on the end of the password and it authenticates correctly. So we switch from legacy authentication to Elytron authentication. Hopefully, some steps will not be necessary once the Elytron is ready in WildFly, and I expect some reasonable defaults, for example, for the HTTP server authentication. But yeah, we will see. As I said, Elytron itself registers its functionality or its services as standard Java security services in security provider. I have a second short demo which shows how to add additional functionality by adding new security provider through Elytron. So let's continue in this demo, and I have simple single JSP which just lists names of security providers registered in the JVM. And it also lists key stores registered by the security providers. Let's deploy the application, check if it is deployed, and list the providers. There is a set of standard do you see it? Not so much. Standard security providers registered by Java security configuration file in your Java runtime environment, and the key store types. The last security provider listed here is the WildFly Elytron, which is the one registered by extension. Also, the password file in the key store types comes from the Elytron. So it's what is in Elytron by default, and when we want to add the PKCS11 security provider, yeah. Once more. Yeah. This is the management operation for it, which says in Elytron, add new provider loader with given provider class loaded from given WildFly module, and we can also provide some properties for the newly initiated provider, and we will say register it on the server startup. Not this one. Let's run it. And run again test application. And you can see some PKCS 11 security provider is registered, and in key store types we have new type PKCS 11. This key store type can be used, for example, to access smart cards or keys stored on smart cards or USB tokens, or in this demo it was used to access network security services key store. So once more the conclusion, Elytron is set of APIs and SPIs, and it should provide unified security configuration across the whole application server. And maybe it will completely replace JAS and Picketbox. So it's the next big thing in WildFly, and you should give it a try. Currently, you need to build the components yourself, but the integration it's expected that now after releasing WildFly 10, some parts will be integrated into the main branches, so into the WildFly core and WildFly. If you find any issue, there's a Ely project in JBoss issue director, so you can report it. Or if you have any thoughts or ideas or comments, you can talk with the developers on HipChat. And it's all. Do you have questions?
Could you explain the relationship between Elytron and Keycloak?
Keycloak is mainly single sign-on. Yes, so it will be, I think it could be used as security realm. So there should be integration in the future, but the base security layer in WildFly should be Elytron.
So there are some overlaps, so to say, that Keycloak may serve in the same role as the future Elytron, right? Or Keycloak can serve as an implementation for some variants of the security. That's the right statement?
I think the Keycloak tries to solve another area of problems. Yeah. If you know current solution security, we have Picketlink and Picketbox in WildFly. And Picketbox is the core of the security, and Picketlink is mainly single sign-on, SAML-based. So in the future, Elytron will be the core, and Keycloak will provide single sign-on. Yeah, I don't know the Keycloak very much, so I can answer better. Any other questions? If not, thanks.
Can you reorder or disable some providers, or is it possible just to extend providers?
As far as I know, it's not possible now, but I don't know what are the plans with this provider loaders under the Elytron. Peter, do you have some information? remove and reorder. Yeah, so the future is bright. Any other questions? If not, thank you for your attention and have a nice evening. Jo.
Ty máš to USBčko, co bylo v té obálce? Oni tam dokonce jsou?
Jo, pak když to zajedeš, a zavřeš, tak to jde pěkně do vydat.
Ano, to je nějaké USB 3, nebo čo to je?
Ne, to je úplně normální. Nechci, že to děkuješ.
No, presto nedám. Tak, Forge, ty boli hotovky.
Ty papíry tam budeme recitovat. Čau.
To boli tí milióny, Bruno.
Jo, už jsme skončili. Co všecko, jo. Dobrý. Co všecko chceš, máme tam všecko donést, aby se nezbylo.
Doneste, no, to, co se tady vidí, já také ty prezentér tady jsou na plnočetné, to škoda, ale tak co s tím jiný. Nechte tady zprava hlavní šáp.
Jo, zbylo, tvojí celkem dost.
Tak to je. Zítra řeknu, že se s čánem můžeme být trošku víc to zazorčí. Ono vycházelo to tak akorát, úplně jako, že tip-top, tak jsem si říkal radši dvě náhodou, ale vyvážil.
Tak Honzo, chceš ty prezentácie?
Jo, určitě.
Myslím, že nám chýbajú dve. Akože prezentátori mali technický problém to dostať na USBčku, pretože nie, ale oni to nemali v kopírovateľnom formáte. Takže to mali len voľako na webe, alebo...
Pan Juříško to tady potom celý zastřeží.
Počúvaj, obidvom som povedal, nech si to pošlu na JBLH, hej?
Jo, a je tam něco?
No, tu je všetko ostatné.
Dejte to všechno do té obálky. Tak jak jsou obálky se dostali, tak ji vedete.
No, jak sme ju dostali, to keď sme vedeli, čo v nej bolo.
Je tam vlastně je to ten sešný věc, někdo z začátku, co dával obsah.
Tady jsou ty papíry,
No, to je môj papier,
to je tvůj?
to tam nebolo, no.
Tak prezentér tady můžete nechat, šály tady můžeme taky nechat. Ale ten obsah obálky, co byl, tak to jsou.
Tak toto jedno mu tam môžeme nahádzať a toto zkontrolujeme, čo tam má byť.
Problém jaký nebyl, kromě té techniky tady, jak jsem
Tie Macy moc nešli, no. Dve prezentácie boli do zelena.
Úplně stýla.
Time management card. Jo, to změl ty, ten
Čo?
time management card.
To je asi už to.
Jo, tohle to.
Hodíš mi ten papier do zeme, prosím?
Ta taška je tvoje?
To je moja, no.
Jo, Honzo říkal, že tohle máme tam odnést.
Odneseš to?